Have you ever been grocery shopping, hung out at night, watched your favorite singer at a concert, and suddenly find you got stressed because all the stimulus and input that bombarded you with made you overwhelmed? Sometimes you'll find yourself so overwhelmed, you simply want to leave and be away from everyone, or else you'll shut down, cry, or worse, have a meltdown. If you say yes, then you know it's not an enjoyable experience. These experiences are often caused by what is called sensory overload. What is sensory overload, you might ask? Well, sensory overload is something that everyone experiences. It is when you have too much information coming at you at once. They come at you from all your senses and your brain cannot process it all. Normally, your brain takes in information from all your senses, such as touch, smell, sight, hearing, balance, and bodily functions. Your brain then processes all that information and then tells you what to do in response. However, if your brain processes too much information, it will say, "Oh no," and then make you do what you want to do to get out of that situation. People with certain mental conditions such as autism may have a harder time processing certain stimuli. The brain may max out quicker when there's more sensitivity. Have you ever ran too many apps on a computer and it crashed? Well, sensory overload is similar when your brain takes in too much stimuli. People will become overwhelmed as a result. Some common symptoms of sensory overload include discomfort, irritability, difficulty in focusing, and a higher sense of usual level of sensitivity. People with autism often feel more sensitivity to others. They have similar attributes to a highly sensitive person when it comes to stimuli. Lights, smell, and sounds may be more intense. Sometimes certain things can be more intense than others in an autistic person, and these things can often change from day to day. Sometimes being an overall sensitive person can be a blessing, but when it comes to being overwhelmed in common environments like a grocery store, it can be a huge inconvenience. So how do you cope with sensory overload? Well, there are many ways. One way you can cope with sensory overload is taking a break out of your time from the stimulative environment. For example, I often get sensory overload when I grocery shop. If I'm overwhelmed, I find it's helpful to take a break and go to my car. I find a quick 5-minute break can make me reset, but sometimes a person needs a lot more time. It can be helpful to think of an escape plan in advance. If you go somewhere where you think you might eventually become overwhelmed, think of places you can escape the stimulus, such as a quiet room, bathroom, or even your car. It might help to let others know in advance. Another helpful tip I found in coping with sensory overload is bringing things that can act as preventable measures. For example, earplugs can be an excellent way to reduce loud noises. I often feel silly when I wear earplugs, but it's worth it since it helps me deal with loud noises. Also, many earplugs can fit snugly in your ears where you can't see them. If you're sensitive to light, wearing sunglasses can help you cope with light. Sometimes picking grocery stores with less fluorescent lights can be helpful too. If you're sensitive to smells, you can always bring a handkerchief or wear another shirt where you can take off and use as a handkerchief to cover your nose. I always hate walking past the soap section at Earth Fare or Whole Foods because of the smell of soap is so strong. I usually just avoid that aisle, but for some people, a handy shirt can be your saving grace. You can always wear several face masks too, as a helpful way. Sometimes spraying another scent on the mask can help if you have to smell obnoxious odors. Another thing you can do to cope with sensory overload is take care of yourself mentally. I find sensitivity can get worse when you're stressed. Stress can affect your nervous system as well as take up your brain's capacity that could better cope with sensory processing. That can be used to cope with sensory processing. If you have to go to a high sensory environment, relaxing and doing something that gives you energy and makes you feel good will help. For example, I love coffee, and I find a good caffeine boost before I grocery shop can really help me deal with it better. I do not recommend using drugs like alcohol as a way to cope with sensitivity. It is better to use tools that is more healthy. Lastly, taking care of yourself physically can also help you deal with sensory overload. If you overwork your body and not take breaks, this can decrease your ability to cope with sensitivity. Make sure you get good sleep and adequate rest. I made a video about how to fall asleep better and how to get a good night's sleep. If you are interested, please check out that video. Having good eating habits is good for your physical health, and this can help with sensitivity. However, it is important to let good eating habits not stress you out. It is okay to eat a cake once in a while, but don't stress out about it. Having a good eating habit that just gives you peace is better. It is great to take vitamins such as fish oil, vitamin B, ginkgo biloba too. These vitamins can help improve focus and can make dealing with sensory processing easier. Many people recommend taking CBD oil and say it can really help. I've taken CBD oil in the past and find it does help with sensitivity. However, I'm not a doctor and I'm not telling you should take it. I'm only saying that others have said that it does help, but you should use your own judgment. Also, be careful when you take CBD, as this sort of drug isn't fully regulated in countries like the USA. This means not every CBD oil sold in stores has the same effect. Some could have different side effects. So if you're interested in taking CBD, I would recommend doing your own research. Well, I briefly talked about what sensory overload is and how it can affect people such as those on the autism spectrum. I then listed some ways in how you can cope with sensory overload and how to prevent it in advance. If you know of any other good suggestions when it comes to coping with sensory overload, please share them in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions or ideas for future videos, also please share them in the comments below. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like this video, share it, and subscribe. Please stay healthy, safe, informed, embrace your obsessions, and most importantly, love yourself. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.